Hey guys, okay, so today's April the 12th. If you didn't notice, I took the weekend off from blogging so that it would give those of you who haven't been able to watch all the blogs so far, give you time to catch up and whatnot, give me a chance to just focus for a little bit, which was good. I got plenty done, managed to get through some queues and such, and yeah, so today I am back with the villain, Mr. Wily, and today I had a queue where the plan, his villainous plan, is working its way in his head, and like the way I've described this scene to myself is the cogs are beginning to turn in his brain. So I mean, on my cue sheet, one of the aims of this track is to foreshadow his future plans, and foreshadowing is always a hard one always a hard kind of concept to score, because foreshadowing something without saying what it's going to be is always a bit tricky. So what I did in this one, I mean, in this one I hadn't planned beforehand, so this was like this came through the process of harmonisation while I was working with the theme, like I do. I came up with a harmonisation idea while I was working, which happens, which isn't a bad thing. Just because you didn't plan it in the first place, if it's a good idea, it's a good idea. If you didn't plan it, it doesn't matter. If it's good, it's good, and I think it sounds good. So now I've got this. I've got a motif which is going to sit under Wily's theme, which is kind of his plan through development. Like I was talking about the other day, I've modulated the whole track down again as he's descending more into madness. And yeah, so now I've got this motif that's going underneath his melody, and to me it kind of sums up the cogs are turning. So it sounds like this. It's on the strings, got its spiccato strings in a minute, and it's on the cello. So it kind of goes like this. I'm not sure how well you'll hear, but. That's the general idea. And I've started layering something that's become a bit of a common feature with Wily, which was unintended, but is the harp. When you play a harp low down and you just get that low pluck, that strong pluck on the low strings, you get this really dark and ominous sound, which is working really well against Wily's theme. I've put it in almost all his tracks so far. If I put that up against the motif, you get this. And then I kind of double it. So you get that kind of nice mix, and then later on in the track, the motif moves up. So I didn't want the bottom end to get too muddy, so that motif moves out of the cello into the violas, and I double it on the harp so that the brass can come through and fill out the low end. So that's what it sounds like, the harp and the strings. I mean, if I show you what that section sounds like. That gave me a chance to shoot up into the higher range with the violins, and then I got to fill out the bottom end with a bit of brass, just to add a little bit of kind of it's darkness, but a different kind of darkness. So yeah, that's what I've been working on today. There's also a part where he mentions robots, very specifically the robots that I scored for earlier. So I threw in the ostinato of the robots as it works its way through. Just that just gives you that hint of robots even when they're not there. I mean, this track's called I Need Machines, and that is the machine sound. So pretty successful day. I got some things done that I didn't intend to in the first place, which was good, and that's always good. And yeah, so I hope everybody enjoyed their weekend and whatnot. Okay, I said I'd answer some questions over the weekend, but because I didn't blog, I didn't get a chance. One of the ones was it's by Pollard Trey. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong, but it says talk about your orchestration ideas and maybe how your orchestration affects how you mock up the cue. Well, you see, I'm in a situation where we don't have the funding for live orchestra, so my mock-ups per se will end up as my final tracks. So a lot of my orchestration comes down to the samples I'm using. So I'm writing for samples, which may not be good in everyone's eyes, but if you're writing for samples, you can do things that you can't do with a live orchestra, especially when it comes to treating them and post-processing. So I've got lots of flexible features there, and I've got MIDI, so I can always change my mind if I'm writing something. But when it went like as for orchestration, I mean, I'm doing different things for different scenes. I mean, like I say with Wiley, I'm staying down near the low registers of instruments where they certain instruments where they sound dark and ominous, like the harp, for example. I'm playing that on its very, very low end because it's got that dark, just ominous sound. For the hero, I'm using a lot of horns because they're very majestic and heroic. So lots of horns in big open chords. That's the hero. There's the family theme. So that's the way I'm orchestrating that is lots of strings. You know, nice, safe sounding instruments. So lots of strings and piano. You know, just keeping that. With action is will probably be lots of. I haven't done much action yet, but the way I've planned it out is plenty of percussion, plenty of use of the ostinato. So I'm imagining lots of dark brass for when it's action in the negative sense. Action as in, because you have different types of action. You have action losing, action winning, action who's going to win. It's hard to explain. So depending on what's happening on screen at the time, but normally lots of brass. I love brass in action. So yeah, sorry if that's not the question you asked, but yeah, Batsman. What does that say? Batman SMK. He says, I'm curious about how you get into this project. I do appreciate you try to focus on one aspect at a time. It makes it easier to share and retrieve a posteriori interesting something. So I think what he's asking there, if he's asking how I get into working, like how I get up in the morning and go to work, he could mean two things, so I'll answer both. How do I get into work? I always start my day, I always, you know, get a caffeine filled drink, start the day, have breakfast, always eat. Eating is very important. If you've eaten, you're awake and you're focused and you feel ready for the day. So make sure you always eat, even if while you're waiting for something to render or something to load up, grab some food, stuff yourself, get yourself ready. Yeah, and I will normally read through all my notes, and if I've got temp tracks, I'll listen to the temp track. I'll normally watch the scene before I start scoring it and see if any more ideas come into my mind before I start, and then I'll start the cue. Normally when I start a cue, I'll start from the point, I'll start from the most important point in that scene. So if it's the point where a character says I love you, not that happens, I'm not going to spoil anything, but if the character says I love you or I hate you or, you know, prepare to die, they're the most important parts. So you start there because that's where all the rest of the scene needs to go to and from. So because that's the point that doesn't change. That's the point that's the most important. So whatever happens in that scene, that's where it needs to lead to. So I'll do that, and then yeah. The other meaning of the thing is, how did I get into the project? Well, I was introduced to there was another composer working on this film before me, and he unfortunately couldn't do it. So he knew me, and he introduced me to the director, and I welcome them all with open arms because I love a good action track. Action film. So yeah, networking, extremely important. If you want to be a film composer, make friends with other composers and directors, because, you know, if you're good friends with a composer who can't work, you know, and he needs to find another composer, you're in his mind. And if the director's working on a film and he needs a good composer, you're there. Okay, guys, so I'm running out of time. Keep checking in, and I will keep you updated, and see you tomorrow.